When it comes to mountain cragging, you're going to be looking for a pack that's around about 35 to 50 litres, depending on the time of the year that you're going out. To begin with, it's worth packing things like your ropes at the bottom. And so for us, because we're going to be climbing as a pair, what we'll do is we'll put one of the ropes in here and then leave the other aside for a climbing partner. And we'll do the same with all of our kit. Now, with all of the kit and the hardware that you'll be taking, it's worth actually assessing what you'll need for your day out. If you're going to be climbing V-diffs and severes, you might be able to get away with either a single or double set of wires, but you'll probably be able to leave the micro wires at home. And the same goes for things like hexes and camming devices. Here we have a set of micro cams, a larger span of cams, and then the two biggest hexes. If we were to take all of this, it would weigh a lot, and on walk-ins that are going to be 1 or 2 hours, that means a lot of weight. So it's worth streamlining according to the route that you're going to be doing. The other thing to bear in mind as well is to put all of your heavier weight kit, so things like your rope and things like your rack at the base, so that it's going to be more comfortable and gives you a closer centre of gravity. So next up is Quickdraws. For big mountain routes, you're going to want a very minimum of 12 and quite possibly more, depending on how long the route you're doing is. It's also well worth your while backing that up with a few either sling draws, so extendable Quickdraws, or more traditional slings, which can also be used as spike runners. These make for a really versatile system that allows you to extend your ropes and reduce drag, that makes the whole thing way more enjoyable and way more efficient. Next up, at least one, potentially more 120 centimetre slings or longer for belays. Again, means that your belay setups are just going to be that bit smoother and neater. And to complement that, with obviously your belay device, a number of screw gates and other basics such as prusik loops and a nut key. Ideally, you want to be carrying this split between yourself and your climbing partner, but for illustrative purposes, we've just put it all in our bag today. So next up on the list are things like your climbing shoes, and for a big mountain route, it's sometimes worth sizing them accordingly because you want to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you may not be having fun, and we're all out there to have fun. Things like a harness and a chalk bag and a helmet, which we'll pack at the very end so that sits on the top of our pack. Next up are some of the layers that we might need. Things like a belay jacket or potentially a waterproof jacket, depending on what the weather's doing. A hat, a pair of gloves, and depending on what you're doing in terms of your own layering, something as simple as a really lightweight windproof is really useful. Were I to go out now, I've got a windproof layer on already, so this wouldn't be necessary. But layer up accordingly because it can get cold. Next up, really important, is things like your snacks and your lunch. Make sure these are somewhere accessible in the top of your pack, because if you're anything like me and you hit the wall, you're going to get really hangry, really grumpy, and this saves you and your climbing partner a lot of misery. And last but not least, some safety essentials. If you are going cragging up on high mountain crags in places like the Lake District, Scotland or North Wales, a little group shelter can sometimes be useful, especially if the forecast's mixed. A basic first aid kit as well is something really good just to put away in the event of emergency. And depending on where you're going as well, if you're going to Scotland and the Lake District, this map might not be quite so useful, but if you are climbing in more remote areas, it's worth packing a map just so you can actually get in and out, and the same goes for a compass and the ability to use both of them. Last but not least, a guidebook. A traditional paper guidebook weighs a lot, and it's genuinely worth considering either photographing a page and taking in a picture, alternatively using an app such as the Rockfacts digital subscription service, as that's much lighter weight and saves you from carrying a very unnecessary amount into the crag with you. Next up, another thing that you really never wish to forget is a head torch. Even if you don't think you're going to be out for that long, If it gets dark and you haven't got a head torch, you really are stuffed. You have no options. If you've got a head torch, climbing in the dark can be a relatively pleasant experience, as can walking out, but only if you've got the right kit. Next up, water. It's essential you drink enough throughout a big day out. 1 litre may not be enough. Some people prefer to carry a hot drink with them as an alternative, and you've obviously got sources of water up on the mountain. Just be careful where you're getting it from. And there you are, a really nice clean pack filled with enough equipment to climb virtually any route within the British Isles. Off we go.